Blackhawks fall in overtime to the Boston Bruins in Game 2 of the season. Now, I will say this was at least another really exciting game. Really stinks the Blackhawks couldn't pull out a win, but we'll talk about why exactly that didn't happen, and they did get a point on this trip. Still a little bit of a disappointing trip to fall really in two really close games to the Panthers and the Bruins, but all in all, I think there were a lot of positives to take away from this game. Starting off here with the first period. Now, I actually wasn't able to watch the first period, unfortunately, because of the CHSN service that I paid for was not working. I could not get the game up, so I had to jump through some hurdles in order to pull up the game for the second, third, and overtime. So I missed the first period, but based off everything I heard, I didn't miss much, except for Connor Bedard getting his first tally of the season on a one-time shot off a nice feed from Andre Burakovsky, who I'm going to talk about a decent amount in this video because he had a pretty good role, or pretty big role, in this game. On this play specifically, he had just a nice feed cross ice to Bedard, who put home the one-timer for his first of the season, and that seemed to be really the only highlight of the period. After the first, it was a 1-1 game, and then heading into the second, it didn't pick up too much. I mean, it was a little bit more entertaining to watch, it sounded like, and the most notable thing for the Blackhawks was Louis Crevier getting on the board, which was interesting just that he was in the lineup. He was a late add to the lineup. We had thought, even through warm-ups, that the lines were going to be, as I talked about in my video, is going to be typically the 12 forwards and 6 defensemen that was projected, but Louis Crevier was a late add into this game. He only played 8 minutes in this game. Not entirely sure the decision to put 7 defensemen in, but Crevier did score off a feed from Bedard, who had 2 points in this game, and that was, again, really the most notable thing from the second period. First 2 periods were relatively slow, look kind of like two teams that will finish near the bottom of the standings playing each other, but then we get to the third period and that completely flips on its head. The third period was filled with a ton of chances both ways. The Bruins opened the period on a 5-on-3 and scored right away to take a 3-2 lead, but then the Blackhawks responded pretty quickly. Andre Burakovsky got on the board for a goal. He had 2 points in this game, and just to focus on him for a second, I thought he had a really nice game. We actually got to see the skating ability that he has. The speed, the skating was all on display. The shot was on display as he scored, like I just said, on a nice feed on a 3-on-2 rush with Teravainen and Nazar. He had a nice shot from the slot to get on the board. So I thought Burakovsky had a real positive game. This is kind of what everyone's been wanting to see. I think people, like I said in my video, I've been saying, like, we need to see a few more games on Burakovsky before we can make a judgment on him, because a lot of people wanted him off the first line without really giving him a fair chance to show. And who knows, maybe he might struggle in the upcoming games and we still want him moved down, whatever it may be. But it just kind of goes to show we got to give him a little more time, because he had a real nice game today. He was one of the Blackhawks' better forwards. Again, had 2 points in this one and scored to make it a 3-3 game pretty early on in the third period. And while there were no goals scored until the eventual overtime winner by Boston, the third period was just filled with a ton of chances. We also had a fair share of scrums as well, and it wasn't just your typical fourth line scrums with your physical guys. Connor Bedard was in multiple scrums in the third period. Frank Nazar, Artem Levchinov were getting scrappy post whistle. So it was a very exciting period both ways there. And another guy I have to bring up, especially for this period, was Arvid Soderblom. Unreal period from him. Boston had multiple grade A chances to take the lead, and Arvid stood tall. He had one of probably the save of the season so far, with a 2-on, or I think it might have been a 3-on-1 save that he stopped stretching cross crease. Really nice save from Soderblom. That was one of the highlights of the game. Kept the Blackhawks in it and pushed this game to overtime. We got a really exciting overtime period as well. The Blackhawks had a ton of chances, especially the Nazar-Bedard duo was on in overtime, and they were generating. Nazar had 2, unreal chances in the slot, and then Bedard had a breakaway too, but couldn't convert. And then Fraser Minton for Boston scored the eventual overtime winner on a 2-on-1 rush. So Blackhawks do fall in this one. Very exciting game, and they had their chances in this one for sure. Before I dive into some more individual player performance, I do have to give an injury update from this one. Jason Dickinson left in the second period after only playing 8 minutes in this game and did not return. It looked like he took a hit against the wall. Looked like a pretty standard hit, but apparently it messed something up. So we'll see what happens with Dickinson here in the coming days. And with Sam Lafferty not playing, I'm not sure if that was injury related or he was just a healthy scratch. Either way, that's the information we'll get here in the coming days. We'll see who this opens up opportunities for. I'd expect now, I guess we'll see how long this injury is for Dickinson, how long this keeps him out for, but I'd expect Ryan Green to stay up in the lineup. I thought he's had put together back-to-back pretty solid games playing in a fourth-line role. Who knows, maybe Lucas Reichel gets in, but I think that's something we talk about more after today. Got to bring up Sam Renzel. I thought he had a real nice bounce-back game after he struggled on Tuesday night's opener in Florida. He played like the Sam Renzel we saw the final 9 games of last season. His ability to bring the puck up on the rush and really orchestrate his own rushes. There were a few rushes that he created by himself. Made drop passes, passed out wide, and gave the Blackhawks opportunities to create quality shots. His playmaking, his skill, and IQ were on display in this one, just like we've seen in the past from Sam Renzel. So that was nice to see him bounce back. I didn't think Artem Levchinov had a great game. He took 2 more penalties in this one, so he's taken 4 penalties in 2 games to start this season. He's definitely struggled, especially defensively, especially with his playmaking. We'll see if this impacts long-term. I know the Blackhawks are giving him an opportunity to be a full-time NHLer this year, but we'll see. If he keeps on struggling like this, who knows? But he did have an assist in this game, and I think it is going to take a few more games to let him settle in, give him a chance to settle in before, again, we jump to conclusions. I know it's easy to jump to conclusions right now after watching 2 back-to-back kind of struggle games from Levchinov, but well, hopefully he can settle in here as he goes along. Really hoping they can put together a full game effort. That seems to be kind of a problem throughout the preseason and early on in this season. They just haven't been able to put a full 60 together and have a real strong game all the way through. We see flashes where they play really well. Look back to the second period in the Florida game, and tonight it was as the game progressed, they got a lot better, but they really just need to see them play a full 60. All right, before I get out of here, I do want to go over some of your guys' takeaways. I post on Twitter at Blackhawks Focus after every game asking for you guys' takeaways. Let's see what you guys had to say after this OT loss. First one here. It says, honestly, one of the best games I've seen in a while. Nazar and Bedard had great chances. Vlasic looked great. Soderblom was outstanding in the third. Still don't know how that Nazar shot went in. Yeah, if you didn't catch this game, I'm sorry for like self-promoting, but go over to my Twitter and watch the clips from overtime of Frank Nazar and Connor Bedard's chances. Unreal stops by Korpisalo. And yeah, it ended up being a really good game. The first 2 periods were pretty slow, but things ended pretty well, so that's exciting. The first 2 games, even though they have been kind of disappointing in terms of the win-loss, and they've been really close, kind of tough ones to swallow, they both have been really exciting, and that's really all we can ask for at this moment. You know, this team's not like we're really competing for a playoff spot. Who knows, but that it's unlikely. Next one here says, the year has already started in refereeing. Is suspect. How do you call a penalty on Nazar? He's getting cross-checked by Zadorov. Yeah, the refs... It was interesting. Some of the scrums, some of the calls were a little questionable today. I think he's referencing, and this one there was a big scrum in the third period. The refs issued offsetting penalties when it was kind of Boston that kind of did most of the damage. So kind of just is what it is. Kind of just have to play it as it goes. The positive note on that end was that Jeff Blashill was animated after that whole sequence, and in the past, we've kind of seen Blackhawks coaches, not really do anything when there are bad calls. So hopefully Blashill being animated and vocal about his opinions on these calls, hopefully that we don't see a situation like last year where it felt like Bedard was never getting any calls, and really the team overall, the rest felt like they were always against the Blackhawks. There's one that's kind of a negative one on Arvid. And while I think overall he was good just because of how good of the highlight saves he made, I do see some of the negative critiques. The rebound control wasn't great in this one. That's where Boston did most of their damage, was on the rebound. At least one of their goals. I can't remember, since I missed the first period. I didn't catch the first Boston goal, but I know at least one of theirs in the second period was off kind of a lousy rebound from Arvid. So the rebound control with him, that's probably something that he'd like to clean up. But again, he made some highlight reel saves that it kind of made up for it. Scrappy team, crisp passing, 10 forwards most of the game probably didn't help. Definitely. I mean, the Blackhawks played shorthanded in this one with no Lafferty. and Dickinson. Ryan Green really stepped up into that role, but still, he's only in his fourth NHL game, and this is a competitive tied game throughout the third period. I thought that the team played pretty well today overall, and they easily could have won this game if you just look at some of the chances they had later on. Boston's physical play reminds me of how much I hate the Hawks' play style of tiny, undersized players that are our future. Sure, they have speed and talent, but I'm old and long for pre-2004 hockey. I get what you're saying with some of the smaller forwards. I think the Blackhawks are looking to establish, I think they understand that they have a lot of small forwards, small skill forwards in the pipeline, and are looking to establish a little more physicality. Hence, Colton Dock, who had 6 hits today, being promoted up to the top line. I think they do have some guys in the system, though, that can play a little more physical, and obviously their defensemen are all very big outside of Wyatt Kaiser. Exciting energy. Feels already like they've turned a corner in terms of continuing to fight after going down already to Rockford. Hope Dickinson is okay. Yeah, they've been competitive, and that's, again, at this stage is kind of what you want to see, is that these games that really the Blackhawks would kind of fall away and fade away on, they're being competitive and putting up good fights. Artie's looked rough these first 2 games, but again, got to give him a little bit of an opportunity to settle in. We'll see maybe once we get 10, 15 games into the season, then you can start to determine whether he is, ready to be a full-time NHLer, but it is only 2 games in. He has looked, the decision-making hasn't been great, but he's only 19 years old. These growing pains are expected. There will be a decision, though, if this play kind of keeps up, whether or not he does indeed stick in the NHL. Connor and Frank probably need to not choke at breakaways in OT. Yeah, that was tough. They both had, Connor's one was not, I'm not on the ice, so I can't, obviously I trust Connor to make his move. It didn't look like it was his best move, though. It felt like it was kind of an easier save for Korpisalo, but that's just me sitting here watching the game, not actually being in it. Frank's that was one of the best. That was like Arvid had the unreal 2-on-1 save, and then Korpisalo kind of matched that. It was I don't know how he stopped that shot off Frank Nazar. Next one says here, Hawks are definitely more competitive this year. Levshinov should be in Rockford. Yeah, I kind of just touched on both of these. The Donato contract is already looking awful. Yeah, Donato, when he signed that contract, you're not really expecting him to put up identical numbers to what he put up last season with the 30-goal, 60-point campaign, but I didn't think he's looked like that great, especially, Florida. He was playing in that top line role to start, and he got demoted after 2 periods, and then today he was on the third line. Not a great start for him. I don't think he's played that great to start. I will say one thing I've noticed him implement so far this season is this kind of like agile move. I don't really know how to describe it, but if you know, I guess. He's put on some agility and has had a couple moments and a couple flashes where he makes a nice move to create a chance. However, yeah, overall, his play hasn't been great. Again, only 2 games in, though. I don't want to overreact on anyone. Last one here, man, should have had that one. I'll take the point. Yeah, kind of my mindset. The Blackhawks could have easily walked away with that game, and it's nice to at least get 1 point out of it, but man, those are tough games. It's like, man, you really want to win those after some of the chances they had late. But yeah, that's going to do it for this one. Overall, 2 competitive games. I got to at least be happy at that from the fan perspective. Kind of stinks only taking 1 point, but is what it is. They'll look to bounce back on Saturday in another big game versus Montreal at home.